I know you hate my love with all of these emotions. I don't really fuck with you, kill my serotonin. I can't really deal with this, drinking on a potion. When it's all said and done, just going through the motions. You're trying to get to know me, then you go and ghost me. Next thing I know, yeah, you fucking on my homie. I don't really give a fuck, cause I'm not the old me. Doesn't mean shit, cause I don't even know me. 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 Weeks pass, got you acting so strange. Don't speak, it's all in my head. Hey, chemicals in my brain controlling my emotions. Used to be so depressed, my life is a commotion. Flowing on this beat, riding waves in the ocean. A bitch in my backseat, wetter than the ocean. Trying to get to know me, then you go and ghost me. Next thing I know, yeah, you fucking on my homie. I don't really give a fuck, cause I'm not the old me. Doesn't mean shit, cause I don't even know me. 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 I could go an hour on this flow, it's an omen, but I'm still sad. Every now and then it's no fun. I've been down bad, but I know that I'm still chosen. Falling to my knees, praying that I fucking make it. On the real deal, bitch, I don't gotta fucking fake it. I'ma get up out this town, yeah, I know I fucking hate it. Sexy girl, rubbing aloe on my back, yeah, that sounds like the life. But you know I fucking got that, ayy. Cause my serotonin flowing, ayy. Then I remember that you're not mine, and I realize that I'm dead inside. Then you're trying to get to know me, then you go and ghost me. Next thing I know, yeah, you fucking on my homie. I don't really give a fuck, cause I'm not the old me. Doesn't mean shit, cause I don't even know me. 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 I don't even know me.
Hi besties, you're currently watching The Vomitorium. You can support the show at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. Enjoy the show! actually. Even you, bestie. That's a bit scary, isn't it? But don't worry. You can find comfort here, watching the Vomitorium. You and other fellow soon-to-be crabs can also support the Vomitorium at www.streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live.
You get 2 tanks and 2 healers?
Yes, in every trial.
How many people in total?
8. So you get 4 DPS. Because anything that's not a tank or a healer is labeled as DPS, even if they're more bursty. Because, you know, it's like, WoW. Technically, every single job is DPS. Yeah.
Did you see where the Batgirl directors tried to leak the footage?
I saw that they were trying to go even just recover it, right? Because like, finish shooting it on our phone if we have to, and then like all of it was gone.
Yeah, which I'm betting that means they just were revoked their access.
Yeah, so people are like, oh, it was deleted. It's like, no, I mean, it can be missing without being deleted.
Yeah, like somebody has access to it. They don't just throw that away.
I mean, the footage that they did, they don't own the directors and stuff. That belongs to the studio.
Yeah.
So if they stop the movie, the studio has rights to do whatever they want with that footage.
That's right.
That's what you get for making a movie for someone else. Go make an indie film instead.
Yeah, I heard like if they had released it, they would have ended up being like on the hook for all kinds of like residuals. And so it's like, you know, if it did fairly poorly, they would have just ended up losing money on it.
Yeah. No, I bet.
Whereas they lost a lot of money, but not as much as they could have.
Yeah. I think that's probably why they dropped a lot of the movies and stuff that they were working on, because that was pretty much the only finished one. That movie was basically complete, sans a couple reshoots and side scenes, but they could have pieced together a full movie out of it. But there's a couple half-completed movies and early production movies that they canceled too, and they probably saw all of them as worthy of cancellation. I doubt they would have just thrown them out without good reason. No company would want to waste money if they thought it would be a waste of money to get rid of it as opposed to putting it out.
Yeah. But yeah, it did sound like they weren't quite finished.
Yeah, I really think it was just reshoots. Probably because, listen, phones are way better than they used to be.
Yeah.
But they're not as good as studio cameras.
Right.
But with modern effects and stuff, you could do a couple reshots on a phone and then like digitally impose it into the better shots to correct some things.
I guess.
Yeah.
Studio wasn't having it.
Nope.
Like, nope.
And you know
when we
what?
said
We're probably
it's
better
canceled,
off for it.
Yeah. Like when we said it was canceled, we meant it.
Here's the real thing. Who was actually looking forward to that movie? Like, there's some people who claim they were looking forward to it, but I don't even know if those people were going to go watch the movie anyway.
Yeah. I mean, was Michael Keaton going to be in it?
I have no
It
clue.
was like, I heard that he was going to play an old Batman, and it was like,
I know he
no.
said he's still down for playing Batman again. He
Yeah.
even had recent interviews about that.
Well, everyone's been saying, like, no, he needs to play old Batman in a Batman Beyond
Yeah, I
movie
agree.
or something.
The
Not
problem is,
stupid
who's going to
Batgirl.
play Terry now?
Oh,
Because I thought, what his
Pattinson?
name? Pattinson. I thought he would have been great for Terry, especially because
Yeah, I mean,
he was even kind of somewhat broody. I mean, he was still preppy at the same time. He was going out to parties and stuff, but he was kind of a broody guy. It would have been fine, but no.
and he wouldn't have had to, like, you know, there was all that stuff where he said he didn't want to work out and bulk up and everything.
Yeah,
Like, he wouldn't have had to.
like I know in the
Terry's
cartoon,
Pretty thin, right?
due to the drawing style, he ended up looking the same throughout the whole thing. But when you go and actually look at the adaptations and the comic versions and stuff like that, his size did really change throughout it. He started out as kind of a scrawnier person, still broad shouldered because he was supposed to look like a young Bruce for spoiler reasons, I guess, if nobody's ever watched Batman Beyond. But like the whole point of the suit was that it was supposed to make up for the lack of muscle. Bruce was originally going to wear it, but he just went so long. It's like, as an old man, he can't even wear a suit that makes up for that, and that's why he needed a young ward to do it for him. But yeah, you don't even need muscle. That was literally the whole point of the suit.
Yeah.
Fuck it, I'll spoil it. I don't care. It's like, what, 20-year-old show anyway? It's fucking Bruce's son. It was his son the whole time. He surrogated the mom.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
I don't think I watched enough to find that out, but I don't really care. So that's fine.
Again, it's just almost 20 year. When did that show come out? I know it was after the animated series, so maybe it was late 90s, early 2000s, but it's got to be almost 20 years, if not more, at this point. Like, I don't know. I don't mind spoiling things that are over a generation old. It's like, I don't know. You've had enough time to get to it.
Yeah. If I haven't gotten to it by now, I never will.
Yeah. Let's see. But I guess since we're on the movie train, we got a couple different things to talk about in that regard. There was the trailer for Pinocchio came out today.
Yeah, I saw it.
The Disney
I saw
Plus
that.
original. I don't know. I was expecting it to be creepier, given that who's working on it.
Yeah.
But
I I thought it looked pretty decent
Yeah.
to me. I mean, other than
Well-
the fairy godmother who was, or whatever she was, the fairy princess or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like bizarre looking.
That was probably the only thing that felt in line. Like, I wasn't expecting the world itself to be creepy, because it's, Robert Zemeckis is the one directing this. But I was expecting, like, Pinocchio himself to be more uncanny. I think they actually did a really good job of making him look like the cartoon Pinocchio, which was, like, the biggest deal for me. Oh, yeah. Looks pretty cool.
Just a weird black bald fairy.
Yeah. That was kind of the weirder
Creepy.
part. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it a girl? Is it a woman? I couldn't even. It looked vaguely like a man. I couldn't tell.
I don't know.
I assume it's a woman. I'm sure we could look up the name of the actress, but. Let's see. Yeah. Tom Hanks was a little weird looking.
That's Geppetto, yeah.
Okay.
Cynthia Erivo
Okay. The
is
blue
the
fairy.
Yeah. Which, I mean, a fairy can honestly be anything. If anything, I think the fairy should be the creepiest looking person in the entire movie. Because we've distorted fairies to make them look always uncannily beautiful. But if you actually go back to, like, the myths and stuff, some fairies were beautiful, almost like a trap. But some of them were monstrous because fae folk, or fairies in general, were often deceptive trickster creatures that sometimes even ate people. And this just happens to be one of the good ones.
Yeah. It didn't bother me. I just thought it was kind of funny. I was kind of like just amused that she looked very odd.
Yeah.
I actually read the original Pinocchio in fourth grade, I think.
Hmm.
And I still remember it. It was a very dark novel. Like the original.
Yeah.
Very, very dark.
Well, I know even the novel took bits and pieces from folklore before that. So it kind of have to be dark because all of the inspirations. If you've ever read old folklore, all of it's dark.
Yeah.
On purpose. It's usually to teach morals and stuff like that, but all of it's dark.
Yeah, really the only thing I remember, just I guess because it made such a big impression, was like when Pinocchio first comes to life. Like Geppetto is ridiculously poor,
Yes.
just like utter sheer poverty, and all he can give him is one apple to eat for like, I guess for like a day, the first day that he's alive, and I just remember him. Like he sort of Pinocchio acts like kind of a spoiled kid at first, and he like peels the apple because he doesn't like the skin, and he eats the flesh or whatever. And later in the day, and then later in the day, of course, he's starving, so he eats the peel, and then later still, he's even more starving, so he eats the core. I just remember just eating every last bit of that apple.
Well, I know the context, too, is Geppetto got used to being poor, but he didn't always used to be that. He used to be a very, very successful puppet maker, like, when he was younger.
Mm-hmm. I just remember that apple scene.
Yeah. Apparently, Jiminy Cricket's going to be played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No. Now, who is Robert Downey Jr. going to play?
I don't know, because I have an article up about this, so it doesn't have the whole cast. It does say that the sly, honest John, who's the one who ends up taking all the boys to the island and stuff, is going to be played by Keegan Michael Key.
Okay.
Which I could see him pulling that role off pretty well. So, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder. Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at the cast and I see Robert Downey Jr., but it doesn't say what his part is.
No.
So, um,
Maybe he's just having a fun time and he's going to be doing the sound effects for Monstro. I would
could
love
be,
to just be
but-
cast as that. I would love to just be the guy who does the sound effects for a monster.
Yeah. Or it could be like the narrator or something like that.
Yeah,
If there's
he'd be a pretty
narrator.
good narrator.
So I don't know. But yeah, I barely recognize Tom Hanks as Geppetto. But yeah, so I saw some people complaining about it, but I don't think it looks too bad.
No, I think it looks fine. Now, there is probably going to be an actual creepy Pinocchio coming out this year. And I don't mean creepy as in I was worried that Pinocchio was going to be uncanny in this more child-friendly one. Like, genuinely, it's probably going to be a disturbing one. Because Guillermo del Toro is still on the chopping block for releasing An Adventures of Pinocchio. Why they have two Pinocchios coming out in the same year, I don't know, but
Weird.
this is the one I was looking more forward to. But I do like Guillermo del Toro's work, especially when it comes to like puppetry and effects. Because he prefers to use practical effects as opposed to digital whenever possible, which I like. I think it's easier to blend it into the world that way. Than having to CGI lighting and stuff to match.
Yeah, it's weird when that happens. Like when Bug's Life and Ants came out at the same time.
Yeah.
And what was it? Armageddon and Deep Impact came out around the same time.
Well, the problem too is like these ones are definitely going to be more comparable because they're telling the exact same story as Pinocchio, but like you always can't help but compare similar movies like that, and they will always live in like one of the other shadow for the rest of their like livelihood or existence. Like I think the acting in Deep Impact was more serious, and there's a certain craftsman to that, but Armageddon is just overall a better movie, and Deep Impact will always live in its shadow. There's some charming things about Ants, but it's also borderline communist propaganda, and Bug's Life is just a better movie.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah. See, but that's basically all I have to say about Pinocchio. I'll probably end up watching it. I don't know if I'll end up watching it legitimately, given that even though I have access to Disney Plus, I might still refuse and watch it the other way, just out of
Is
spite.
it going to be on Disney Plus?
Yes. So this is a Disney Plus original, as opposed to the Del Toro one. I think is actually hitting theaters.
Okay, so it's not even going to be in theaters at all?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, you know what I saw on the plane? To anyone wondering, by the way, I am in Arizona this week. But I watched on the airplane Moonfall, which is a weird coincidence because the Critical Drinker just came out with a review of Moonfall in which he said he watched it on a plane.
That's probably where most people watch it. I don't even know what Moonfall is.
I don't blame you. It was terrible. It was pretty much, well, if I had anything else that I could have been doing, it would have been a waste of time.
That's probably why most people watch it on a plane.
Yeah. It had Samuel Tarly was in it from Game of Thrones. Pretty much playing Samuel Tarly. It was pretty much the same character. And Halle Berry. Like, I don't know how they got these really, fairly decent actors to be in this terrible movie.
Oh, no, that's very easy. One, most actors don't have self-respect anymore. There's very few who actually turn down roles. The only way that an actor accepts or turns down a role these days is depending on how much money they're willing to throw at them.
Yeah.
So you can
Or
have
if
a
they've
high
got
budget,
other-
horrible movie, but you can get good actors in it just
Yeah.
because your horrible movie has a decent budget.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it was from the director of like Independence Day and 2012 and all these other high budget, disaster movies.
Independence Day was such a good movie. I mean, at least
I
the
know.
first one, anyway.
I know, which was surprising that this was so bad.
Well, I mean, then you said 2012, and then I'm not so surprised that it was so bad.
Well,
Because 2012, I wouldn't say
2012
is
is
awful.
kinda
It
fun.
was
Yeah.
2012 was passable, right? It was a fun time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a great movie or anything, but it's like above the passing mark. So if we chart a line graph between these things, and I can only expect in so many years it's not going to be passable.
Yeah. Roland Emmerich,
Yeah.
and he did like Day After Tomorrow.
I like Day After Tomorrow. That's a good movie.
He did the second Independence Day, which was
Which
terrible.
was not a good movie. Yeah, see, we're just following a path of trajectory here.
Yeah. He did Stargate, which was good.
Yeah, great movie. Better TV show, but you don't get it without the movie.
But yeah, it was so cliche. It was like I felt like I've seen this movie before, like a dozen times. Because it was
Probably
like,
have.
yeah, there was actually a scene, which I know that I've seen this exact scene in other movies, where someone basically refuses to launch nukes, and one person says, "If God help you if you're wrong," and he says, "If I'm wrong, God help us all." I was like,
no, that I've heard that exact exchange like a dozen
Right?
times. Yeah.
right? I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did that."
Can you at least come up with new dialogue for the same scene?
I know, it was awful. Oh my God. If you care, basically the premise was that the moon is an artificial structure built by humans, but our ancestors like 1 billion years ago. And they got into this war with artificial intelligence that they created that basically wiped out the entire human race. And they built the moon as like a failsafe to go. And then humans lived in, the far reaches of the galaxy. And the moon was sent to Earth to seed the Earth with DNA and restart the human race. But then, of course, the AI finds us and screws up the moon so it's falling out of orbit, about to crash into the Earth. We have to send astronauts up there to stop the rogue AI from destroying the Earth.
See, all you really need is 4 giants and a small boy in like green outfit, and that'll stop that problem.
That's right. Yeah, if the moon's falling out of the sky, just play the what's
of
it called? Oath of Order. Yeah. You're good. What's funny is that they really didn't stop it though.
Yeah.
Like the Earth wasn't completely destroyed, but the moon got so close it pretty much sucked up like half the atmosphere and half the oceans, and I'm pretty sure that the human race probably went extinct very shortly after the movie was over.
Yeah. There are so many problems if the moon even just got that close. Like, I always think about the Oath of Order and stuff. It's like, Termina has to be its own dimension of not communicating with anything else, no matter what version of the story headcanon you decide to go with. Because literally everything would have been destroyed just from them holding the moon in that spot.
Yeah. I mean, they try to explain like the only reason that the moon doesn't like break up when it gets close enough to the Earth. Like they say it's going to break up when it gets too close.
Yeah.
And basically, a rain of fiery shards of moon. And of course, they say, well, they find out it's like this superstructure that's indestructible. But it doesn't explain why the Earth doesn't basically shatter into 1 million pieces.
Now, depending on the speed in which it's going, which God, I mean, if the moon was going to get to the Earth in any measurable amount of time, it would have to be going at ridiculous speeds. But if it was going slow enough, you actually could put two structures like that without them being destroyed entirely. Now, I mean, we'd have problems with like the water in the atmosphere, sure, but most of it's held together by its gravitational binding energy. The bigger problem would be if for some reason there was enough atmosphere and stuff to end up wrapping around both bodies, the celestial bodies, you would end up having a shift in gravity too, which would probably be like 2/3 from the center of the Earth towards the other object, because of it will meet like the average median point between both masses, just like how your center of gravity is where the average median point is for your mass. There's just all kinds, like no matter what you do, there's going to be some issue involved here that's going to fuck everything up.
They clearly show, like you can see in several scenes where there's like water and atmosphere that's basically surrounded the moon. That's been ripped away, and it's all surrounding the moon now, and it's like there's not enough air and water for the Earth anymore. Even if they get it back in orbit, how are they gonna?
And that wouldn't exactly happen. I mean, it might take some atmosphere away, but the problem is the Earth is still the object with more mass, so it would be drawing everything towards it.
No, they find out. They find out that the fake moon is actually far more massive, and they don't really explain why.
This would have changed the entire development of life on Earth.
Right. For somehow, the moon changes mass throughout the movie, because they find out halfway through that like it's become more massive. I don't know. It's so stupid.
Because our tides are directly affected by the gravitational pull of the moon. So
we can actually measure the mass of the moon from that.
It would have changed the entire evolutionary biology of Earth if the moon was much more massive. Like, if you're going to make this movie, you have to find some way that, yes, it's an artificial structure, but it still has the same amount of mass that it always has. Most of it's hollow or something like that, you know?
Well, so they basically say most of it is hollow because they go inside of it, but there's a white dwarf star inside the moon powering it. And so I guess they kind of imply, which doesn't make any sense, that the star becomes more I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, if the star collapsed into a neutron star, it would effectively be more massive, because it would have a rotational momentum that would give it more mass than it normally has. But like then you have all kinds of other problems if that dwarf star collapsed into a neutron star. Also, like how is this structure floating around a star in the first place without being torn apart by the gravity? Like alien technology is somewhat indestructible, blah blah blah. But like this star would be doing a number on this structure over the entire eons that it had been sitting there.
Plus, just because the star is encased in the moon,
it
doesn't mean that it. Yeah, like because they like open up a hole to get into the middle. Like that doesn't like release gravity somehow.
No. Gravitational waves go through everything, and they it's the square root law. As it goes out, it gets weaker and weaker. So technically, you always feel gravity in perpetuity, but eventually it's just like 0.00000 that is effectively not there compared to other forces. Yeah,
it's just the stupidest movie ever.
It is.
It's the dumbest. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So don't watch Moonfall if you're listening. Hey, Rebellious Pastry, she forgot that.
Long time no see.
The Vomitorium existed.
That's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. Glad to have you back.
Welcome back.
So, speaking of other movies that are probably going to be dumb, but have a much better reason for being dumb, and we won't hate it for being dumb, right? and that is Sega just announced 2 movies. And the 2 that they chose, this is actually from last week, but we didn't end up covering it. But yeah, the 2 that they chose were the oddest 2 movies you could possibly pick, and I'm kind of here for it. I'm just wondering how they're going to adapt them without completely fucking them up. We have Comics Zone, which is a very weird movie, or a very weird game, which will be a weird movie if they adapt it properly. And Space Channel 5 is the other one.
Like
Are you familiar with either of those 2 video games?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with both, but well,
Yeah. Those 2 are going to be adapted into movies.
Yes, I'm quite familiar with Comic Zone. I'm vaguely familiar with Space Channel 5.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? Just hearing your initial reaction to that.
I mean, are these going to be in theaters? Or are these going to be like?
Yes, they're going to be
Netflix?
done like the Sonic movie,
Okay.
from what I can tell.
Is it going to be by the same studio that did the Sonic movie?
I don't know. It's been partnered with Picture Start for the announcement. I don't know what the actual studio is and everything. It's very, very early. They just announced it. 5 days ago. So just before we did our last episode.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like Comic Zone, I think it'd be the hardest one to adapt and to actually keep the feeling of the game, right? Because the whole point of the game is like you're playing a comic book. It's very meta, fourth wall. The guy's like aware he's in a comic book. He's going between the panels to get from like stage to stage, all beat 'em up style. It's actually kind of like Gwenpool before Gwenpool is a very good way of putting it. But instead of like a comic that takes place within a comic, it's a game that takes place within a comic, right? So you'd have to make it a movie that feels like he's in a comic book, which means we'd have to have like panel transitions and stuff like that if you actually wanted to feel like Comic Zone.
Yeah, is it going to be like that awful Hulk movie?
That's what a lot of people have been saying, and personally, it would fit more in this than it would in the awful Hulk movie. And I kind of would want this movie to be a little campy, a little cheesy. Space Channel I want to be very campy and very cheesy, but like I hate how they have to make all of these movies super serious. And I think they might have learned their lesson from the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, because one of the things people like about it is that it takes itself seriously, but it's not like as serious as the Transformers movie adaptation was or anything like that. It follows its own rules and can be humorous and stuff like that, but it doesn't feel like it has unnecessary amounts of humor added in. If they take that mentality towards these movies, I think that can be perfectly fine. But it's like, when you want to be the perfect level of seriousness, you want, what is your boy Zach always said? You have to stick to the bit, right? Like whatever your bit is, that's what you have to take serious. So if the bit here is that he is in a comic, that's the part of the whole thing you have to take serious.
Yeah, I guess. Is he trying to get out, or is he just trying to have an adventure within the comic world?
I would think that we want to stick to him trying to get out thing. So we'd have to set it up to where he gets trapped into the comic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the love of God, please don't make the main character Ryan Reynolds. I like Ryan Reynolds, but please just don't cast the main character as Ryan Reynolds.
Did you see Free Guy?
I did not.
It's a good movie.
I've heard good things about it.
twice.
I'm not avoiding it or anything. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really, really good. which is surprising for a movie with Taika Waititi in it.
Well,
think it
I
would
don't
be
think that all
terrible
of
to-
Taika Waititi's movies are horrible. I just think he should not be touching other people's
Comics.
properties and stuff like
Yeah.
that, right? Like things that aren't his idea. I didn't watch the movie, though I've heard good things about it. I was enjoying the TV show based off of What We Do in the Shadows, and that was a Taika Waititi property. Jojo Rabbit is a funny movie for what it is. Like he can make good stuff. It's just you got to work within the frame of these are the type of things I make, you know.
Yeah. Well, what are they going to do? So Space Channel 5 was a Dreamcast game
Yes.
from 1999. It was a rhythm game, right?
It was. It was a great. Okay, so the whole premise of the Space Channel 5 is that you play as Ulala, who is a reporter on the channel, right? It's the fifth channel, kind of like you have Channel 5 here. There's like BBC 4 and all kinds of different things like that, depending on where you are. And she's going around, and usually there's some type of thing happening. There's only been 3 games: Space Channel 5, Space Channel 5 Episode 2 or whatever it's called, or Part 2, and there was a Space Channel 5 VR with an expansion featuring Hatsune Miku. But there's like usually like some type of invasion happening or something. I think the first one was Alien Invaders. It's been a while since I played the first one because only Part 2 is available on Steam. I don't know why Part 1 isn't. You'd have to emulate it. But yeah, you're Ulala and things are going down. You have to cover the news, or there's the second one. There's this kind of like masked man who's going around and controlling people and trying to take over everything, almost like he's making a cult. And you have to rescue the other members of the channel because it's always the space station that the channel's on that's getting attacked for some reason. And you just do these rhythm games where it's Simon Says, basically. The game will give you clues. They'll do like a ba ba bum bum, and then you do the ba ba bum bum or whatever it is. There'll be different words. She'll say lyrics and stuff to it, and they get kind of intense. Very fun.
So
but you could easily make a movie out of it because the game is basically playing a musical. Every single thing is a scene
but I mean,
that you're playing.
There's a plot. They're in space. There's an alien
straight up
invasion,
plot.
so-
Each part is an episode, so you're playing through basically scenes of a movie. It only takes you like maybe 2 hours to get through the whole thing. Well, depending on how often you fail, but like that's probably the easier one to adapt. It's just the weirder one to adapt because you have to keep it weird if you want to do it right.
Is that going to be live action?
I would assume so. I'm wondering who would play Ulala. Oh God! One of my friends just almost made me gag a little bit because it's like Margot Robbie is Ulala. It's like,
oh no!
Yes.
I've had enough of her. She would have been good, like back in the original Suicide Squad days, probably.
Yeah. No, I'd want some young, no-name person to be Ulala. That would be.
Yeah. Just the visuals. Did you ever see the movie Home? The animated movie.
I'm trying to remember if I have or not. It's not ringing a bell.
It's like a little short purple alien that's trying to get home.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Just the visuals remind me of that.
Well, so basically, it is a 60s mod style aesthetic, just done it with that Jetsons future thing, right? So basically, it's like a spy movie. You take the idea of a spy movie, but instead of a secret agent being in charge, it's a reporter on a spaceship. It's got that very B-movie sci-fi vibe to it. Everything's psychedelic. And Michael Jackson is one of the main characters in the game, which I have no idea what they're going to do with that. His name is literally Space Michael. He was voiced by Michael Jackson. And the actual backstory to it is that like in the 90s, like the actual current time that the game came out, Michael Jackson had like saved the world from aliens.
Yeah.
And they kind of put him on ice. And 500 years in the future, when Space Channel 5 happens, he got unfrozen. And despite being a world-saving celebrity, decides to work at Space Channel 5 of all places. I think he's a part owner or something like that.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I mean, it is Sega like Studios or whatever. So who knows? Maybe. I mean, I don't know what you thought, but I've seen both Sonic movies and I liked them both.
I have not seen the second one, but I imagine I will definitely like the second one much more than the first one. I was not a fan of the first one.
No.
I think that they actually did get Sonic as a character down well, but I had issues with the idea of the first one before the backlash even got them to change the model. I'm like, yeah, that model's horrendous, but that's not the problem I have with this movie.
The fact that it all took place on Earth and
you could have done that with, you could have went like a Sonic X/Sonic Adventure style stories, and Sonic X is really just combining Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, which all take place on Earth. It was basically that it was turned into a weird, apparently pastries in the waiting room.
You want to join us?
You can bring pastry in if you want. But it was like this weird buddy road trip movie that was like Hop, basically, but with Sonic. And then Jim Carrey really wasn't playing Eggman, at least in the first one. He was playing Jim Carrey as a character, trying to pretend to be a hyper genius. Now I know he started to like morph more into Eggman towards the end. Like this was supposed to be like Eggman's origin story, which is why I'm expecting I'll probably enjoy the second one more than the first. I just have, it's one of those things I haven't gotten around to doing.
You want me to drag pastry in here? Do I just drag
you
her
can.
in? I've never done that before.
You can,
Hello.
you can drag pastry in.
Welcome. Oh,
Dropped out
she
immediately.
changed. Sorry, they changed their mind.
Yeah. Maybe it's because you referred to pastry as a her.
I apologize. I sincerely apologize. I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I'm serious.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll enjoy it. It does seem like they do care, and they are willing to look at what the fans actually like, which is why I'm kind of actually holding my breath that Space Channel 5 and Comic Zone might be adapted properly. That might all be okay. I'll have to see. We'll wait until like shots come out or a trailer or whatever, whenever they're actually far enough into production that we can see anything about it. But apparently the actual director of Space Channel 5 will be a part of the production, and one of the producers from Sega will be involved in the Comic Zone movie. So yeah.
They want me to bring them. I can't.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, the only way to get in is waiting room, and then somebody has to bring you in.
Yeah, it's not working. Sorry.
It's probably just Discord difficulties.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've brought somebody in through the waiting room, but when I've done it in the past, I've never had a problem, so.
Yeah. And I do sincerely apologize for my misspeaking. I'm an old man. I am not used to,
Yeah.
Please forgive me for.
Every time somebody says "please forgive me" and stuff, I always think of like Nintendo when they're having things like "please understand."
Yeah.
We are
not on
trying our
purpose.
best.
It's not, I swear it's not on purpose.
Yeah.
But I could try one more time. I don't know why they keep like dropping out. Hello, can you hear us?
Hello?
Hey,
Hello.
there you are.
There you
It
are.
worked.
Are we on?
Yeah,
Hello.
you're
Oh.
live.
Oh man. It hits different hearing my voice on air. It
So
actually
did-
annoys me sometimes.
Sound fine? Did
But
you see
yeah.
the Sonic movie when it came out?
The funny thing is that I don't really watch movies on my spare time. I try, but then my mind's just like all over the place. Because
Yeah.
with movies I don't have anywhere to put my hands. Like
It's not like playing a
I
video
need-
game where you can just have like your hand on the controller the whole time.
yeah, like I need some type of controllative element to it. And movies and books don't give me that controllative element.
Yeah.
Well,
My
it'd be
problem
cool
is
if
I'm just
Space
too busy.
Channel. It'd be cool if the Space Channel 5 movie was like interactive.
That would be weird. I don't know.
I guess it would be. Well, it would be a video game then, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And then I would just say, hey, go play Space Channel 5, which is
Yeah,
already a good
exactly.
game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot what that timer was for, but it's up now. But yeah, so, what normally happens on this show? Sorry, it's been a while.
But normally, we just talk about stuff. That's it. That's all we do.
So I've been just joining other people's stream shows and been, also, I'm gonna start my own stream shows again this coming Thursday.
Cool, cool. Yeah, have you been on a break, basically?
Yeah. It was more of the whole, like, I was doing an IRL obligation that was not letting me stream, so yeah, that's what happened, and then I'm back.
So Metal Pastry just got into college.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
That is for, IRL people and people outside the channel to know, that's the thing.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Well,
But yeah,
I'm not going to say where. I don't even know.
yeah. It's kind of an age giveaway if I were to tell that to the batch.
No, I mean, you have to think about that too. Is like, when I was in college, there was an 80-year-old there who was going for like her first degree because she had been a mom and a grandma and everything, and she was learning graphic design, and she needed help too. She was right next to me, and I'm
An
like, why are you doing this?
80-year-old?
Yeah, she's, why are you doing this? It's like, because I never had the college experience. You know, I've done everything else. This is what I want to do with my retirement. It's like, you know what? More power to you.
Yeah,
Man,
you can go back to
alright.
college anytime.
It honestly, it's honestly very funny how you're like an 80-year-old that's learning graphic design.
It'll keep you young.
But yeah,
So digital
mean, I don't
scrapbooking
think-
at that point.
I don't think that I don't think that any of my base is on or anyone from the batch is on this show.
No, probably not.
But yeah, I honestly think our bases like are different from each other's.
Probably.
But there is some overlap. But the overlap is
Anybody's
mostly,
welcome to watch.
yeah. So, what is the most oddest topics that you've ever discussed on this show?
That is a rough question too, because some of that might even have been before Marsupial was even on. If it's some pretty weird topic. At one point, we spent an entire episode talking about ants, which isn't really
knew you
that
were gonna
odd
say
of a topic, but
Yeah, I remember that.
a lot of things. I remember I had I wouldn't even necessarily call it a debate, a discussion, but like a pseudo debate with my old co-host over like the ethics and what does and doesn't qualify as Lolita. Just because like in Japan they have very different definitions of different things than we do, and it's very weird and risky, and it got pretty heated. as a discussion, but I was fine. I don't skirt away from any topic on here. We just usually end up talking about news, anime, video games, comics, stuff like that.
Yeah. I honestly feel like, yeah, that's definitely a different thing that you guys do on here versus back when I did my talk show.
Yeah. It was funny too, is we never got slammed for the Lolita episode, but then the immediately next episode when we started talking about ants again, that one got was it even I think it was a strike. I sent it back out. The strike got dismissed, so it doesn't actually count as a strike. But it was the one thing that we actually got struck on was an ant episode. And I'm just like, what? Not the Lolita episode, the ant episode.
YouTube was like, we've had enough about ants.
You're welcome to Antcast, where we give you 112 unique facts about ants every single episode.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that you guys got struck for ants, man. Yeah.
We've talked about ghosts as well. All kinds of weird things. Like, I don't know. If it's interesting, I'll talk about it. You know.
I honestly feel like you guys are like the weirder version of Pastry and Ink's talking draw show back when I did that.
You know, you never do Metal's an artist, but you never do like art on stream or anything like that.
I've drawn stuff on stream.
Yeah,
I know you have. Pastry.
I have. They're just mostly there for audio games.
Like I have a setup for it too. I don't know.
Oh, your thing.
I've done it, but I don't know.
You've literally all the episodes you've been on for is audio games.
Yeah. On your channel, yeah.
Which yeah, I just continued to talk show because of what? How does one say this? Just like misconduct on air and off air misconduct.
Oh, that's why you took a break?
No, the break was because I had camp. The reason why I quit the talk show is misconduct.
Oh, I gotcha.
Which the only reason why I feel comfortable saying that on air anywhere is because the original misconduct happened on air.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I have a new show, which is a hobby review show.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have audio games this week, which is gonna be Pastries Theater, which is basically a show of me being like, was I ever this bad? Like ever? So I feel like
I'll be right back.
I feel like the Vomitorium tends to be like a glorified talk show.
Oh yeah. It's not even glorified. It's just a talk show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But the thing is that you guys have like more of the whole like with Cross, he'll let anyone on at any time. You guys have like the whole let them on if you feel comfortable with it. And then you got me, who is literally like you literally need to schedule a time on.
Yeah, which I don't think you did, but I'll let you on anyway. So,
yeah.
But
So what's your favorite topic to talk about on here?
honestly, most of the time we talk about video games. So usually, if there's some news about Final Fantasy or Zelda or something like that.
Have you guys played Kirby: The Forgotten Land yet?
I've not played it yet. Have you played that?
Yes, I have.
How is it?
It's interesting because it's like if you were to go ahead and take like the Kirby 64 game and just
Mhm.
was like, okay, let's do another three-dimensional game, but we're not gonna let you have two powers, and we're gonna turn Kirby into a vending machine sometimes.
Right. Right.
Which
Yeah, we ta-
I wouldn't consider that necessarily a spoiler because it's not like a very significant
trailer.
part of the game.
Are we
But
talking
yeah.
about the
Yeah.
Forgotten Land?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we talked about it when the trailer came out, and maybe one more time after that. But
Still haven't played it.
Vending-
I mean, I played the demo, but I haven't played the full game.
Vending machine Kirby just is weird.
Well, I just find the whole thing weird that Kirby only partially absorbs these things that are otherwise less massive than stuff he normally absorbs and just
Yeah.
gets their power. Plus, like in the 64 one, if you absorbed a boomerang and the ice ability at the same time, he became a refrigerator that shot things at people. Like, it just seems kind of weird that they wanted to give
Arbitrary.
him this cappy power, right? They were trying to do the Mario Odyssey thing, and it doesn't just fit Kirby lore-wise, you know?
Yeah. I honestly think Forgotten Land wasn't the best thing that Nintendo have ever created, but it's there.
I mean, the demo was fun, you know?
yeah.
It just don't seem like it would make sense to the normal Kirby games.
Yeah.
Also, I almost accidentally made the mistake of grabbing my retainer instead of my mouse to save an art piece.
What's next on your list, Metal?
Oh,
Topics.
yes. Let's see.
Getting
I've got a
back on
few.
track here.
Yeah, a few of
Oh,
them.
sorry. Sorry. I
That's
did
all
a
right.
Freaking good
Let's
tangents.
see. We
Okay.
have... which one did I want to talk about next? I've got a few things up here. One of the ones we
Yeah.
missed was that... remember Embracer Group, right? Embracer Group has been running
Yes.
around buying a lot of stuff up. Beginning of the year, around I think it was April, they bought up Gearbox. Just this summer, they ended up acquiring Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Interactive from Square. And now they are making new acquisitions, including Tripwire, Tuxedo Labs, and of all things, limited run games, which I like limited
Yeah, I
run
saw that.
games. I get a few different things from them. I've got physical copies of No More Heroes 1 and 2. I've got the Scott Pilgrim box set from them. And I don't know how I feel about this, because Embracer Group is... They're kind of the equivalent of a hedge fund, but almost like they're the opposite of Bandai Namco, which Bandai Namco is a asset handling, a holdings company, right? Konami's that way too. That's what they do, holdings. But these are like... genuinely the opposite. It is a diffused group of investors that throw their money together, but it's almost like a democratic pitch meeting of everybody voting with their dollar what they want to put money towards, and then they kind of just let the company do their thing as long as they continue to make money for them, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know how effective that's going to be. We're going to have to wait until we actually see a game come out under any of these things. But I'm just wondering why they would pick up limited run games unless they're looking for an alternative to distribution, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I know some people were rather upset that they apparently acquired the rights to The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Yes, they did acquire the gaming production rights to them,
Yeah.
which honestly has to be in better hands than WB.
Yeah,
or
that's what I
rights before
said.
That, yeah.
I was like, well, anything they come up with has got to be better than Amazon.
Yeah, because it was it would have been Amazon, but it turns out they didn't buy the rights to the games, and they found that out the hard way.
Yeah.
And before them,
Yeah.
WB was the one who had the rights to that. And personally, I know some people like Shadows of War. I haven't enjoyed well, Lord of the Rings Online was okay, but I don't really know if there was a good Lord of the Rings game since they had top-down RPGs on the Game Boy Advance.
So, what how does limited run games work? Because it seems like they work with other studios, right? Like they
Yes,
don't
they'll get a
own.
license,
Yeah.
usually for like an indie game, and they will do a physical print run. But it's a little expensive to do just a print run when you're a small company for the number of people that want it. So they only do it by demand, and they do it with almost like a Kickstarter in a way where you can get
Yeah.
bonuses. So you can get just the game, just the cheapest one, but it's still going to be more expensive to get it that way. Sometimes it's going to end up costing about as much as a traditional like AAA game would be, even though usually it's like a $20 game that they're printing. And then if you spend even more money, you can get like these crazy box sets that's got everything. Like this map came in the Scott Pilgrim one. But yeah, they get licenses.
That is a
I
very
think I'm
strange.
gonna hop off for tonight.
Hey,
See you
well,
guys
thank you
later.
for coming on.
Thanks, pastry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to chase her off or anything, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that is a very strange company for Embracer to acquire.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a game development company. It's a game distribution company, like you said.
Yeah, but you know what? Maybe they are looking for alternative distribution. Now, what I would not be surprised if they do this is in kind of the crowdfunding Kickstarter manner, but without actually going into crowdfunding, is if their special editions were done limited run prior to doing the full releases of games. That way you can get like your whole your maps and your art books and all of that stuff sent. You get it a little early. One of the big problems is limited runs take forever to produce. But if they have the backing of a large hedge fund type corporation like Embracer, maybe it will actually speed up the process because they have more money to dump into it. Because I think even after they finally got all the orders in, it took 6 to 8 months for me to finally get the Scott Pilgrim set. And some people, it took over
I
a
remember
year
you were waiting.
because the Anamanaguchi soundtrack printing was what they were waiting on. It was holding things off. And some of it was a copyright problem, I think. They had to like get some things sorted out.
Yeah. Well, that's a weird one. I don't know what to think about that. But
No.
Embracer, God, they're like Pac-Man. They're just
Gobbling it all up.
they're like EA from the '90s. Like they earlier this year, they bought like Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, all these Square IPs, Legacy of Kain.
Yeah,
they
but I mean, to be
basically
fair
bought-
though, those things also were only Square IDs because Square had bought them, right? They weren't originally Square IPs, and they got them because Square was shedding off those companies. So they basically took the opportunity to seize these good IPs the second they went onto the market. And I don't know much about Embracer other than what I've read and how they are more of a diffused group than anything. It's not like there is a
So they're almost like a
CEO
like a
that calls
publisher.
it. Kind of. They're an investment group, right?
Yeah.
It's like I would put them in line with like Konami and Bandai Namco, where those are holdings companies, but instead of everything being centralized, this is a decentralized holdings company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking through all the stuff they own, and it's like they own Borderlands,
Yeah. Because they just got
Knights of the Old
Gearbox.
Republic. Yeah. Apparently, Knights of the Old Republic, or a remake of it, or something.
Yeah.
Metro Exodus.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, they just acquired a lot of series that I kind of like the way they started, but I haven't
Yeah.
been happy with the way they've been going. And
Yeah.
I think only time will tell to see if they end up fixing any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Mostly by maybe even letting the publish or the actual developers be free to do what they want to do. which we might end up in a Netflix situation here, where it depends on where the changes to these things made on their previous publisher's decision, or they made on the developer's decision, and it could just end up being how Netflix throws money at things they think will make money, and they don't really actually censor people. Tomb Raider might still just be fucked because Eidos might be fucked. I don't know, but we'll see.
What's weird, like they've acquired these studios that don't necessarily own the IPs they've been working on. So like they own Tarsier Studio, which made Little Nightmares, but they don't actually own that IP.
Yeah.
So it's just the studio that made the game for Bandai Namco.
Yeah.
And then they bought a company called Saber that did like ports and remasters of Witcher 3 and Halo. So it's like,
maybe they don't care about those IPs though, right? Like they did get some big IPs, but I think what Embracer might be looking at, being a very diffused investment group, so it's getting a lot of information from a lot of different thinking people instead of like necessarily an echo chamber. They might see, even though they don't have the IP, this is a talented company. If we give them resources, maybe they can make something good on their own. Or maybe we can get them other licenses or whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, just all of their acquisitions, some of it's IPs, some of it's just studios that, made good games. So looks like they're just acquiring talent and, and IPs. So it's interesting. It's like impossible to say because, they could be another EA, which is terrible and has always been terrible.
They could be another Namco. My issue with Namco is that Bandai Namco isn't hands-on enough to actually be a publisher. They're actually more of a producer, is what I always call them, because there's a certain level where some companies are too hands-on and they stifle creativity, but then there's some where like Namco just doesn't give a shit, like at all. They only care that the game sells, and most of their games that sell on their name alone. Like they have a lot of Jump magazine licenses because they partner with Jump and they end up getting all of that. So like you don't have to try hard to sell a Dragon Ball game. Dragon Ball games sell themselves. So you get a lot of shitty Dragon Ball games. They don't come in, they don't tell them what to do. They just kind of let Dimps have their run at it. And then Dimps makes the 5th shitty Dragon Ball game in a row of the 15 they've made in their lifetime. And which is actually more than that now. Xenoverse was number 15. I think they're actually getting close to the 20th Dragon Ball game they've made. And they just don't touch them. And it's like, okay, Dimps, you do their thing. Here's money. You give us money back. They are more like a producer in that regard, like an investor. So they could end up being like Bandai Namco. Or they could end up being like freaking Activision, who, when they get involved in something, they got their greedy little hands involved in every single aspect of things. And if things didn't sell quite as well as they wanted to, they were going to kill your company. So who knows? Those are the two extreme ends. Hopefully there's somewhere healthy in between, but...
Well, I know, I don't know what you call them, YouTube and Twitter personality Lofty Pixels seemed very upset about their acquisition of the Lord of the Rings IP for games.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know why. Because, just because they acquire that or acquire a studio that's like they also acquired Crystal Dynamics, which is working on a new Tomb Raider game.
Yep. And then they said also on the chopping block, maybe after Tomb Raider gets finished, they're going to work on a Legacy of Kain game, which has been sitting in limbo forever. So it'd be cool to see them actually return to the series.
Yeah, so it could be good, could be bad. It's impossible to say.
And it's all really new. Like all of these acquisitions started happening, I think, early winter, late last year is when they did their first major acquisition. And then some of the ones we were talking about were as soon as April into this summer. So we're gonna have to wait like a couple years even to see like the fruits of any form of development, let alone a game come out, unless a couple of these things were midway through a game and were able to keep all their assets during transit. But usually you don't want to sell off something mid-project. You kind of want to wait till a project's finished, I would assume, before you sell off a company. Who knows what they were working on, though.
So, yeah, it's like news, but not news. Like,
Yeah.
it's impossible to predict. Like, okay, they got acquired. What does that mean?
It's
Could be
early
good, could be
news,
bad.
right? It's a precursor to whatever the real news is going to be in a year or two from now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I didn't have much to say on that one. I just feel like I was going to bring it up last time and we didn't get around to it, so. Well, I'll be keeping a big eye out on Embracer. At first, I thought nothing of it, but with everything that they're going around, they've got a lot of big-time investors behind them, some big names in Europe and stuff, so we definitely will have to keep an eye on them. Hopefully, they'll resemble what some of these startups that became big companies look like back in the day. Because things like Activision, when it first started off, not a bad company. They have been since the late 90s, but when they started off, they weren't a bad company. Blizzard started off a good company. EA started off a good company back when all these were small little garage development companies making games in the heyday of there were no big companies that weren't already toy makers in video games. So we'll see. We'll see what becomes of this stuff. What else did I have? Let's see, One Punch Man Season 3 is announced. There's not really much to say on that other than it's about damn time. I've been waiting.
Wait, say that again?
One Punch Man Season 3 has been announced.
Oh,
Yeah, that's basically all I have to say about that is it's about damn time.
yeah.
It's going to be by Studio Bones, which makes some good stuff, which will be the third distinct studio to handle a season of One Punch Man. But it's got to be better than animation-wise than the last one.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, I could barely tell the difference, between seasons 1 and 2.
I could.
They both,
it didn't bother me,
good.
but I could tell.
But they're both great. I thought they were both great.
I do think for having a much smaller budget and being a less experienced studio, that the second season staff did their damnedest to try to recapture Studio Madhouse's animation style. But, I mean, Madhouse is just such a good studio. What the hell are you going to do about that? Bones, they're going to be throwing more money at it. They're a more experienced studio. I think they'll probably end up doing a better job overall. So that's good. And we're actually going to get to where the show really starts to get interesting because we're getting involved with the major antagonist of the entire series. We've already seen him, and that's Garu, who grows dramatically, being the human monster. The stuff that happened with him, I don't want to spoil it for people who are only watching the anime or whatever, who haven't read the webcomic, aren't keeping up with the manga adaptation of that. But the recent fights between him and Saitama have just been top-notch. And then the manga goes even further to reinforce that Saitama is not a gag character. There is Punch Man, and he is still yet getting stronger despite being the strongest guy you've seen in the show so far. So it is very intense with them wiping out stars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm wondering, where the show can go, because it's like, can they, do they keep up sort of the joke of no matter how strong an enemy seems to be, he's nothing compared to Saitama, ultimately, or does he actually have any challenges?
Oh no,
It's
no,
almost
no.
funnier
He
if he
does
doesn't,
have to
but-
try,
Yeah.
and like in the current part of the series, he does actually have to try, and it is intense.
Yeah.
Now he still ends up being the strongest, but
Of course.
yeah, he
Like,
he ends up not one-shotting someone.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
crazy. Well, now he didn't necessarily one shot. Who was the guy at the end of season 1?
Boros?
Yeah.
Well, he did and he
mean,
didn't, right? Like, he had
Yeah.
enough power to
He
one-shot
wouldn't
him,
really try.
but Boros
Yeah.
has such regeneration that he could dissipate and come back, and he also did not use his full strength at all. Even with his actual one serious punch, he was still holding back. But they're scaling to Saitama. The actual thing is that he is strong enough every day to one punch the him from yesterday, which means he has exponential growth. But that does mean at any point in time there is a current limit to how strong he is. He's just constantly moving past where he currently is.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's not like he is some unlimited god that could and destroy the universe, at least yet.
Yeah.
Though there was a funny scene in the recent manga where he and Garu are fighting. It's a throwback to a joke during an interview with Murata, who is the guy who does the manga adaptation that the anime is based off of, right? So one does the webcomic, then Murata comes in and draws the manga, and then there's the anime adaptation of it. And during an interview, they're like, what would have happened if Saitama missed the moon, right? And one wasn't the one who answered, it was Murata, and he's like, if he didn't land on the moon, he probably would have just farted and propelled himself back to Boros' ship. And he ran with the joke. He actually pulled that into the thing, and they're in space, and he actually propels himself with a fart. So, yeah.
I was like his interactions with what's his name? His apprentice,
Genos.
cyborg.
Genos. Yeah.
Because Genos, I don't know. He's
super serious and trying to become
super
stronger,
serious.
and then he realizes that his mentor has absolutely no
no
idea
chance.
how he got so strong either.
Yeah. And Genos just is like nothing compared to
Yeah.
Saitama. And he probably never will be. And it's just. Yeah.
And the whole point of having him there. So a lot of the different characters represent different tropes, right? Some of them are worldwide tropes that come from American comics, but some of them are very much Japanese hero tropes and stuff. And Genos represents the cyborg android trope. You can bring some of it back to Astro Boy and stuff. So he's supposed to be a very strong character by trope, and he can constantly get upgrade. And a lot of these tropes are only there to further show just how strong Saitama is.
Yeah. You got like is her name Hurricane? The little short
Twisted Tornado.
Tornado, yeah.
Yeah.
She's like the psychic.
Yeah.
The psychic who can... And yeah, there was like a guy I remember in the first season. It was like a guy with a bat. That was his whole thing.
Metal Bat. No, he's such a great character too.
Metal Bat, yeah. And of course, Puri Prisoner is always naked and weird.
Yeah. But that's the thing, like a lot of people don't understand even the webcomic, and they think looking at the webcomic, oh, this is a gag comic. And it's like, no, it's a funny comic. And it looks gaggy because it's the artistic ability of the creator who couldn't get somebody to draw it for him. He did originally pitch it to Shonen Jump, and they no. They would not like hire him on as a writer and get him with an artist at first. So he went and made the webcomic, and it became so popular that eventually they changed their mind and got a actual mangaka on for him. But like, it is a serious story that is humorous because he takes the humor very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, it's a parody.
It will
right?
kind of. It's a form of parody, definitely.
Yeah.
It's not what you would typically think of when you see the word parody, but maybe in that satire category.
Well,
but it's not ironic. That's the thing, though, right?
Well, now I haven't read the manga. I actually have them, but like I've read some of them. But like that scene where he goes to the building where they're like making these creatures, right?
Yeah.
Sort of this. Do you remember the name of the guy that was there?
Oh, you had to fight the. It was the rhino beetle, which was the big creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the whole time, he's like panicking because he suddenly realized that
He missed the
he
sale.
missed coupon
Yeah.
day or whatever
Yeah.
sale at the grocery store. I mean,
Yeah, but there's nothing ironic about that, right? So
Yeah.
this is supposed to be showing you that none of these fights are entertaining enough. Like, they can't keep his attention. And it's giving you into the personality, the mindscape of who Saitama is, right? Like, there's a level of parody, but it's ironic story, and that's why I struggle to use the word parody. But it is also very humorous at the same time.
Yeah. And King